So I've been getting some questions about my drum sound and drum mixes, and I wanted to share some of my approach to drum mixing using the knowledge gained from pros and fellow YouTubers nice enough to do the same. So in this video, I'm going to go over 5 plugins and their applications in the context of a drum mix. This particular jam I used to test out the P4 GGD library, and so it's going to be a rather periphery kind of contemporary progressive metal jam. So let's start. So first thing, I will play the whole track a little bit so you can hear the whole mix, and then solo the drums so you can hear what those sound like. So the first plugin on the list is Plus 10 dB by Bose Digital. There's a compressor only version, then an EQ only version, and then the channel strip version, which is what you see here. You can turn each element on and off. I am only using the EQ section, although I will sometimes use the compressor section. And right now I have this on the kick drum, but I will also use it on the snare drum from time to time. So this is standard bass drum mixing, around 50 hertz for the low end, getting rid of the muddiness around 200, and then that top end click around 3K. And what I really like about this plugin is the character. You can really crank the EQ and it still sounds musical. And even though it's basic, it still has that kind of like analog feel to it, and just makes kick drum sound really good. So we can A/B it so you can hear what it sounds like by itself. So plugin number 2 is FabFilter Saturn, and I absolutely love this plugin. It's a multi-band saturator, so you can apply various levels of different kinds of distortion in separate bands, which is fantastic because top end and low end distort very differently. It's incredibly versatile. You can use it on snare drum to get a little bit more crisp on your top end while leaving your beef low end alone. You can use it on bass guitar, applying heavy saturation to the mid-range while being a little bit more delicate for your top end, and then super subtle for your low end. So essentially 3 different distortions in one for your bass. You can even use it on cymbals to get a little saturation from your cymbals. You have many different kinds of distortions to get anything from crazy weird sounds from synths to more conventional sounds for conventional mixing. And then you can kind of have up to a certain amount of bands just by adding this little plus to add the band, which is pretty cool. In this particular context, I'm borrowing a tip from the great guys at GGD who have fantastic videos and using it on the toms, pushing some warm tape saturation, 170 and lower, kind of got it at 31%, and then kind of subtle at 20% for the mid-range, and then at 1.7K ish I'm really cranking it a little bit at 37 to get this kind of tom sound. The toms already sound really good, and this is pretty much the sound in a nutshell. And in this basic 1-minute jam, it's not really muddying anything up. So let's A/B it so you can hear what it's doing. Plugin number 3 is Pro G from FabFilter. This is a gate plugin that is incredibly intuitive, but at the same time has a lot of depth to do whatever you need to do with it. In this context, I'm using the upward function to breathe a little life into the spot cymbal mics, and it gives a little bit more sustain and presence to a bright sounding mix. The threshold is set to kind of clip the attack of the cymbal, and then I have a very fast attack time and a slow but not too slow release time for the release. And then I play with the ratio so that it's still hitting pretty hard but won't overpower in the mix. So here's what that sounds like. I also use a similar technique on the overheads. I'm just not hitting it as hard because of the snare drum. And then I am also using it on the snare bus just to tighten it up a little bit in classic mode. Plugin number 4 is VBC, or Virtual Bus Compressor VG Gray from Slate Digital. It's a bus compressor based off of a popular solid-state Logic bus compressor, and in this context, I am using it to basically crush the snare back into the mix to give it a powerful slap that's signature to this kind of music. So I have a very fast attack, even faster release, and play with the threshold until you're kind of really only affecting the snare drum, decent ratio, and full mix. So I have it on my drum bus, but you can put it on the master bus or even an instrumental bus, and it's a little bit more subtle than the other plugins, but I think it takes something that's already good and just takes it to the next level. Take a listen. Finally, plugin number 5 is Smash and Grab from Get Good Drums. This plugin is for sure created with the GGD libraries in mind, so in this context it's an absolute no-brainer, and it goes on sale often. There are 2 powerful modern sounding compressors, Smash and surprisingly Grab. And there is a lot to use if you want to, or just simple controls if you're just blazing through a mix. There is some compression, some light EQ, and some saturation, and I've seen people exclusively use this plugin for their drums, and it still sounds great, and I may challenge myself to do the same one of these days. But this instance in particular is on my snare bus, but you can pretty much find it anywhere on my mix, overheads, kick, toms, whatever. And there is a pro mode, which adds another level of control where you get the ratio. You can kind of choose the beef and air frequencies, but for this instance, normal mode did just a good of a job, and it definitely gets the job done. So I have the threshold where I'm getting somewhere between 5 to 7 dB of gain reduction. On this one in particular, I just decided to crank the beef knob, thought it sounded okay, and then a little bit of air and a little bit of saturation. So let's hear the snare soloed. If you are looking to get into these plugins, because it's software, I recommend that you wait for holiday, because it will go on sale. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, let me know and subscribe. So that's it for this one. Have a good one.